What to do with the meat and hide of the sacrificial animal? 2.7. Regardless of whether the owner is wealthy or not, he may eat the meat of a sacrificial animal that was not slaughtered as a vow, and he may also feed and distribute IT to those who are not poor. This is the fatwa. However, 1/3 of it must be given to the poor as charity. If the owner of the sacrificial animal is of modest means and has a large family to support, then he may retain the meat of the sacrifice for them to eat. This is recommended. According to another opinion, a poor person who purchases an animal to be sacrificed during Eid al-ADHA may not eat from it himself. This is because purchasing and slaughtering such an animal when the sacrifice is not obligatory for him is considered a vow, and one who makes a vow may not eat from his own vow offering. He may not give its meat to his wife, his parents, or wealthy people. If he does give it to them, he must give the value of what he gave to the poor. 2.8. It is makruh to consume the milk of a sacrificial animal, to sell its meat or hide for money, or to exchange it for something that is not a fixed asset. If such an act is committed, the value must be given as charity. Nitrogen monoxide butcher's fee is paid from the sacrificial animal. 29. The skin of the sacrificial animal is given as charity or used to make items for home use such as prayer mats and tablecloths. It is makruh to shear the animal to be sacrificed before it is slaughtered. If its wool is sheared, it must be given as charity. However, after the animal is slaughtered, its wool may be sheared and used. 3.0. If several people were to mistakenly slaughter each other's sacrificial animals, each animal slaughtered is valid as the sacrifice of its owner. They owe each other nothing. In this case, each person takes their own animal, if available. If the sacrificed animals have been eaten or distributed, they weigh the difference in value among themselves. If they show stinginess and do not weigh this difference, each one pays the other the value of the sacrificial meat that belongs to them. In this case, this difference in value must also be given as charity, because this is the cost of the sacrificial meat. 31. If someone slaughters a sacrifice entrusted to them on the festival day on behalf of the owner without the owner's permission, they are not required to pay for it. The obligation to offer a sacrifice is lifted from the owner because implied consent is presumed in this case. 32. If a person were to slaughter an animal that he had seized by force in his own name, it will be valid on the condition that he pays the animal's value while it is still alive. However, if a person wishes to sacrifice an animal entrusted to them in this manner, it is not valid because they have not acquired ownership of the animal. Under the ruling of compensation before slaughter, an animal left as collateral is, with regard to sacrifice, considered according to one opinion to have been seized, taken by force, by the person holding the collateral, and according to another opinion, it is treated as a trust, vidya. 3.3. A person may eat the meat of the sacrificial animal they slaughter on the festival day with the intention of donating the reward to the deceased from their own property, and may also give some to others. This is the preferred ruling. However, a person may not eat the meat of a sacrifice that he is to slaughter on behalf of the deceased upon the deceased. Instructions: he must give all of it as charity. 34. If a person purchases a camel or cow intended for sacrifice with the intention of slaughtering it alone, but later agrees to share it with 6 others, it is permissible for them to slaughter it together as a sacrifice. However, this is disliked. That person is considered to have breached his promise. He must give the money he receives from his partners as charity. According to one opinion, if the man is poor, he cannot agree to others becoming partners, because the sacrifice he is to perform is in the nature of a vow. By purchasing the sacrificial animal, the poor person has made it obligatory. 35. The essential element of udiyah, sacrificial slaughter, is the shedding of blood. The obligatory ritual of sacrifice is not fulfilled until the animal is slaughtered. Therefore, it is not permissible to give the sacrificial animal as charity before it is slaughtered. However, if the sacrificial animal cannot be slaughtered during the days designated for sacrifice on Eid for any reason, it must be given as charity while still alive. For in this case, the act of shedding blood is transformed into the act of giving charity. The owner may nitrogen monoxide longer eat its meat. 36 IT is dislike makruh for a person from the people of the book, a non-Muslim, to slaughter a sacrifice. It is, however, prohibited haram for Zoroastrians and idolaters to do so. However, there is nitrogen monoxide objection to giving any of Fij, the sacrificial meat, to a non-Muslim as a donation. The sacrifice was established as lawful in the second year of the Hijrah. Its legitimacy is established by the Quran, the Sunnah, and consensus. According to the Shafi school, sacrifice is a personal sunnah ain, for an individual. For a family, however, it is a sunnah of kifaya. Once the head of the household sacrifices an animal, the obligation for the others to follow this sunnah is lifted.